Welcome, everyone. Today is November 12th, 2024, and we're focused on a Digital World Town Hall meeting as elements of a report out, as well as we have a live audience with us. We're grateful for all of those that are in attendance. And if you'd like to join, there's a process to go through that, but you can ask questions real time and live. So again, Digital World Town Hall meeting, we focus on kind of the results of this last week, some of the things that have been accomplished, and then the things that are general questions that we'll go over, and maybe some of the things we'll focus on this next. Grateful for Al and Wally for their attendance and helping to moderate. This is a private membership association. Some of the things we'll discuss may be forward-looking comments. Some of the problems that we help to combat are centralized secret combinations in different industries that basically take over government and monetary systems. And the primary focus that we're focused on within the digital world is the technology side of it. So as folks know and understand, it's becoming more and more evident that the things that we've talked about for many years is not something that is just fictitious or conspiracy type theory. It's got a lot of factual information to it, and as folks come to see and understand, it's very important for the individual to have their own identity in the digital world as it continues to mature, especially for future generations. Decentralization, we talk a lot about how that can actually help. A lot of people talk about decentralization in different words. Maybe it's blockchain, maybe it's crypto. But really, those things don't describe what it is that the digital world is focused on. It's primarily a refined balance around how future systems can govern the individual, but allow them to be able to govern themselves, and how governments can actually have a choice to adopt that from around the world. It's not just governments or what people would call nations or countries, but also kingdoms. But any kind of system where people are basically being profiled or centrally controlled, the goal is to be able to have them govern themselves from a decentralized process. The way to do it is by basically giving them 12 words. They get 12 random words that are given to them as a cryptographic key that then uses derived keys for everything that they do in the digital ecosystem. That could tie to logging into different apps or different websites, to how their data is stored. Instead of storing photos or contacts or calendars or email or other things within centralized systems such as Google, such as Apple environments, etc., building out decentralized systems where these actually have a chance for the betterment of humanity, and the individual actually owns and controls their data. So that's basically a quick overview of why we're here and the problem that we're focused on solving. Over the last week, we've had an election. As a matter of fact, just 1 week ago, we were in the middle of it. And so picking up from where that left off, this is what it looks like the results are, at least as of about 20 minutes ago. This is the proposed results based upon votes. What I think is interesting is how much has actually transpired in the last week in a positive way, in a way of change, in a way of unity, in a way of uniting different environments. On this call today, some of our visitors are from all around the world. Majority of them are not from the United States. We have people from Japan. We have people that represent Ethiopia. We have people from Mexico. We have people from the Hawaiian Kingdom, and from all around the world, that basically, as well as Canada, and they represent humanity. So a lot of the things we're going to talk about is how the last week's election results can also impact humanity as long as it's actually deployed in such a way where really the individual is put first. And so as we all know, a lot of the businesses that are out there, they will do certain things to basically get gain. And a lot of that's what their mandate is. That's what a lot of public companies are focused on, is profits and shareholder value. That's why they're there. But when we look at it, how does that help humanity? For instance, health is a good topic. But ultimately, some of the systems that we're talking about is how technology can actually impact all these different systems, from identity to health to voting to finance or financial to businesses or how businesses are created or managed, as well as reputation. And then exchanges that could include things, commodities, equities, currencies, and then kind of the future of currencies on how all these things shift into a digital decentralized ecosystem and then dispute. So all of these are basic things that are important that we're focusing on, and how it actually ties to the elections is still to be determined. And one of the goals, I can tell you, over the next couple days, we basically plan on traveling down to where currently Elon Musk, as well as President Trump, as well as Kennedy and others, are working through strategies around implementation. And there's also been some people that have actually been named within this new regime, which we will work directly with and have already engaged in different ways. Some of the other things that have happened, for those of you that know, I look at Bitcoin as a very good litmus test around how technology can actually help free individuals. And this is a good means of, when we look at different rallies and different growth. And again, we're not pushing anything. We're not telling people to get involved in anything, but there is a massive proof point around a store of value as it results to BTC or Bitcoin, the original actual asset. So you're seeing some rallies there. That also ties to some of the things that we actually tied to positioning within different systems, and how some of the top systems will actually be adopted or pushed or purported as it results to some of these shifts that have occurred in the last week, which is happening real time under our feet. For those that are not aware, Ripple has a deep history as far as it goes back to like funding and Mt. Gox and technology. And I really believe that the basis of the technology to do real-time transfers with a system that is fully redundant is very real. The ability to have that tied to governments is actually just going to enslave humanity even further unless true transparency can actually be resulted. For instance, Bitcoin has the same potential issue. For instance, there's a lot of countries that are currently adopting Bitcoin as their primary currency and dropping off their existing currency. And then they figure out that to do real-time transactions, they actually struggle with it, primarily because it takes about 10 minutes on average for full consummation within the Bitcoin ecosystem. So what they do is these countries layer on what's called the Lightning Network, which actually centralizes Bitcoin. It literally takes a public key and then ties individual attributes to that. And this isn't just a theory, in real time, they're actually centralizing decentralization. So that obfuscation or transparency is actually really not a benefit to the end user. And so the secret combinations are centralized systems, especially in the finance, insurance, other ecosystems, they'll literally be able to tie to that. And then Ethereum is just too slow. The ecosystem and network is the largest one in the world. And the goal is to be able to help shift some of the technology, which actually the digital world is built on a derived or a separated forked ecosystem through Stellar and Ripple, but it uses derived keys like we talked about up in this slide here. So for those that they don't understand what that means, is these 12 words that you get actually represents a key. And you actually have derived keys that tie to those 12 words, that tie to you as an individual. And it's really easy to set up. It's really even easy to understand, but it takes an adoption curve. And so over the next 12 months, we plan on being a big part of that adoption curve around derived keys being understood as a part of the future, so people can actually truly own and control their own identity. So we plan on playing a lot within these different ecosystems and realms. I'm absolutely grateful around how things have ended up in this last week, and hope that it just continues the momentum in such a positive and beautiful way. So we hope to report back some of the findings and during next week's meeting as to how some of these things start materializing. So the things that we'll be focusing on is what had already been started with, what we call the American Republic. For some people that may sound weird because it's not the United States of America as most know it, but when you dig into the history, the actual republic is what was intended. and what was charged to keep, so to speak. And you can also use this type of a branding structure without violating any kind of copyright or structure that's out there. Speaking of that, for those that have asked questions in the past around, well, what is CLEAR and how does it relate to the airport and some of these other CLEAR ecosystems? And I just wanted to provide an understanding that the CLEAR brand, as well as marks and names, actually ties to a lot of work that we've done. When you work with open source technology, with open standards, really the only thing that you can build on top of it is a form of a brand and unity. And the CLEAR companies focus on helping to build out the digital world as a service provider. That's kind of the relationship. So when we talk about this American Republic, we talk about different services that will be able to be offered, whether it's through the country or through states or through other kingdoms, to be able to actually stand up and then interface with future systems. For instance, about a month ago, BRICS was actually formally unionized and come together and really started the process. But the technology that we're talking about and showing you here does not exist within those ecosystems to the level of maturity, even close to what can be stood up within the American Republic. So we look forward to helping to stand that up and create a form of a counterbalance, primarily around identity, finance, and other ecosystems. As you're aware, one of the ways to be able to get onto this environment is through taking fiat-based assets, so dollars and different currencies, US dollars, mark, pounds, renminbis, etc., and converting them into real-world assets, whether it's gold or silver, and then being able to tie those to the actual individual. So whether it's credit, whether it's how you use them in the real world, those things are currently being stood up. We focused a lot about that on last week's meeting, and there's continued maturity there, but it's still a continued process of just standing up the details, so to speak. With that being said, one of the most exciting things that we're working on, and Michael Domina is actually on this call today. He's actually in the offices where I'm currently based today, and we're working through details around really rolling out the future of the Ethiopian environment. And a lot of those details are still being panned out, but we're grateful for the involvement and the potential to be able to build and work together. We're also grateful for some of those that are actually here from the Mexican country as well. And we look forward to just continuing to advance, especially as things shift around identity in the United States of America and with some of these other countries that are just south of us. So with that being said, that basically is a majority of the topics. I want to ask everyone's perspective of what they've seen over the last week and how they feel about it, and just any kind of insights that anyone online may have. Thoughts, feedback, comments, concerns?
I'm really excited, Michael. I'm really excited because I think that possibly what happened in the US will give the people of the different countries the courage to support and vote in the people that they really want to vote in. I mean, I'm listening to what's happening in the US. In Pennsylvania, a young 29-year-old turned Philadelphia red with the young people. I mean, it hasn't happened in over 20 years. And younger people seem to be getting involved and learning about politics. And I have a feeling that, especially in Canada, because the truckers had the courage, and I know things went south for them. A lot of them were arrested and their accounts were frozen. But I'm really hoping that this will incentivize people to stand up. I'm really hoping it'll just give people motivation and the courage to do that around the world.
Amen. Amen. Totally agree. Absolutely. Any other thoughts or feedback or comments?
Like one of the comments.
Go ahead. Charles, we'll come to you just a second. Go ahead, Becca.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
How do you see the unethical artificial intelligence tying into our decentralized frameworks?
It's actually really interesting that you asked that, because for the last 3 weeks, we've actually been having meetings with companies that have actually rolled artificial intelligence out across multiple countries and about 5 different categories. One of them is healthcare, and they have massive amounts of non-patient record data within healthcare. The other is insurance, so healthcare, insurance, the ability to actually track, and this may sound really weird, but different immigration processes or folks that are coming through different environments and helping them to build up credit, which ties to some of the stuff that Mr. Grain and myself started talking about, but they had actually used AI to actually start working through that. And then the general stuff just around information. Some of the stuff that we've been toying with is it feasible to actually take the nodes and the storage devices that are out in the world and actually layer on that a form of AI compute? Right now, I would say that the node side of the digital world as it relates to ClearOS server is currently, the simplest way to put it is not performing at scale to the same level that we thought it could. You know, how many nodes are out there, how robust it is, you know, all the different elements. It's not that the technology is not capable, it's just nowhere close to what its potential is. And we think that layering on compute capabilities that are distributed, which it can be done with AI, could absolutely jumpstart that. And it doesn't have to just be nodes, kind of like, you know, these types of things here. I don't know if you can see, here, I'll try and pull it over. But all of these are different types of nodes and servers, some storage-based, some compute-based, but the ability to be able to use different systems, such as cars, where they don't have a lot of processing needs when they're not being driven, so they can actually do things around compute. So decentralized systems that have value added or additional node-based type functions absolutely fit in that, and AI fits squarely in that. And so we're actually working with a firm that basically does AI implementations on large scales and seeing how we can implement the framework that we currently have within some of these use cases. One in particular is around health. They actually have Blue Cross and Aetna already deployed. So all the data that's behind those, I won't be specific how they're doing it, but the data behind it, they actually own and can plug into some of these different environments. I can tell you that the combination of that tied to some of the things that historically have happened with the devices that actually communicate. So for instance, watches or rings or other things, scales, that communicate with the human body, layering that. So think about it from, you have these devices that are reading what your body is saying, then you have this data around what AI says is health or answers to it. You bring those together, and there really is a beautiful future where humanity can actually benefit from information and knowledge. The big question is, how does privacy and obfuscation play a role in that, but yet the transparency goes to all of humanity for everyone to gain from the large data models. So everything that we forecasted 6, 7, 8 plus years ago is absolutely being adopted. I'm blown away at how fast AI is being adopted and augmented into different types of things, you know, whether it's conversations. Like, I've actually found myself over the last 90 days asking at least once a day when I get a phone call, is this a computer? You know, are you a computer? I think that's, on one hand, it's stupid or ridiculous, but on the other hand, it's reality because they're actually that good. So, and then myself, I find myself, you know, using AI in different facets of life. I can only imagine what's going to happen with education. You know, I watch my kids use it and basically just fly through. But I guess the simple answer is we're exploring potentials, but don't have a definitive direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just doing a case study at the moment on unethical use of the character AI app that was used by a 14-year-old boy in Orlando, and he ended up committing suicide after using an artificial AI app. So I'm doing a case study on that at the moment because there was a bipartisan letter that came out of Orlando District Court that wanted some common ground on unethical artificial intelligence. So I do see the decentralized frameworks maybe tie into some type of place where we can address these types of issues.
What is it that actually happened with that?
The character AI app.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
So I do have like a small presentation here. I probably share. It's not fully complete, but
Is anybody
I can
else
share.
is anybody else aware of what she's talking about? Yeah, this is all new to me. I didn't. So he took his life as a result of it?
Yeah. Do you want me to share my
Yeah,
screen?
if you want to. Yeah, if you go for it.
Okay. I haven't.
I've heard of this.
You heard of it, Charles?
No, I've just heard of this, but I didn't pay much attention to it at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would love to share my findings from this just to get.
Feel free. While you're pulling that up, I'll bring up another quick topic while you're finding that, and feel free just to share your screen as you want.
Yeah.
What this is a gamification potential process where the digital world could actually launch an augmented reality game, if you will. So imagine something kind of like Pokemon, but what it does is it gets people actually wanting to go to stores, and then getting the youth engaged in actually teaching how others can get involved. So let's say that a child that is like, I have a niece who has actually pinged us and said, hey, I'm wrestling and I'd like your support. Could you donate some money? And the thought is you take that to a point where they actually get a card or a list of vendors that actually are a part of this new ecosystem. So the youth are actually making money by doing things that are valuable and community-based and uplifting and coming together, as well as pulling different buyers and sellers together. So it's a real world's reward that kind of has a treasure map. They collect certain things. So there's basically a construct of this new game targeted at the youth, kind of like what we were talking about before. It's the youth and I believe the youth and the women that are really going to make a big difference in some of the things that are happening around the world. But it's an augmented reality game, kind of like Pokemon, that basically gets everyone involved in shopping in such a way where I'm going to stop sharing here in case you're ready.
Can you see my screen?
Let's see here. I'm not sharing. You should be sharing. I'm not seeing your screen though.
You can't see it?
Maybe. Oh yeah, we can. Go ahead. You're sharing it and it's cascading.
Okay.
It might be the wrong screen. It's the window, the video conferencing system. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I just got one screen, which is. Can you see it now?
We're just seeing your main video cascading.
Okay.
So I think.
Can you see it now? Okay. Can you see it now, Michael?
No.
Oh, what? You're presenting. Okay. Can you see it now?
I think so. You only have one screen, huh?
Yeah, I just got one screen, but it's telling me that I was sharing. So, apologies. I don't know why it says I'm presenting.
Here's a link from.
Okay, let's stop presenting and then we try to present.
Yeah, go ahead and retry. And while you're doing that, Susan has actually shared a link on what happened with this young man. So there's a chat bot. Is this video, Susan, is this video a good video to give us context?
I'm not sure. All I know is I just pulled up the article.
Well, go ahead.
Can you see my screen now, Michael? It's telling me that I'm presenting, so I don't know what's going on.
You are presenting, you're just presenting a window that is all of us, so.
Okay, that's fine. Can you see can you see now?
That's the one.
Yes,
Oh,
there you
thanks,
go,
Al.
perfect, okay.
Okay, this is this one screen nonsense. Okay, so this is probably, Michael, going to take me under 10 minutes to present. So if that's
Maybe
okay.
See if you can throw it into just 2 minutes, if you could. Looks
Okay,
like
no
you've got-
worries.
I don't know how many slides you got there, but go for it.
Well, what's the time? 11:31. Okay, so this was a case study that came out of Orlando, and it was on the Character AI app. The purpose of this app is to interact with digital characters powered by artificial intelligence.
Oh, mine was a live bot.
Yeah, and it serves over about 20 million people, active users, and it's to explore new forms of types of digital companionship, entertainment, and learning. So about February 2024, there was a young boy who committed suicide from the reports. And I have a bibliography at the end of this, so I can post it in the chat so everyone can get this presentation. As you can see here, there was some comments that were made and reported before he had actually committed suicide after talking with this artificial intelligence robot. I signed up as a 14-year-old, and this is what I was presented with inside of this app. This was a bipartisan letter that was signed by 54 states to ensure the safe, ethical use of artificial intelligence. And these are some of my analytical comments and solutions for some of these issues inspired by the Benjamin Franklin Library. And this is my bibliography, and I'm going to post it in the chat because you only gave me 2 minutes.
Boy, that was quick. So what is the summation of what you're seeing or feeling or observing here, or is it still kind of in works?
This is, I think, what the court's kind of looking for. I'm going to stop sharing, but just some common ground on how do we manage, where's the place where we can actually come together in common ground and understand unethical use of AI, because I do believe that it's going to be something that might pop up in the future. So those were just some of my thoughts today, but I would love to share this presentation with everyone so they can see all the links and then the videos of the news reports and the case study as well.
That would be wonderful. Thank you for putting that together. I think it's, for me, I haven't even gone through that. Basically what we're talking about here is AI as a companion. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Character AI was developed by some entrepreneurs, and then they worked for Google from the reports, and then they left Google because Google said that they weren't going to adopt this type of language model. So the entrepreneurs left Google, and then they developed this AI character app, and then basically from there it blew up. They had however many millions of dollars rolling into the app, and then Google then offered these same entrepreneurs a rollback at Google with a job. But between the time that it was developed to the time that they kind of got rehired back at Google, there was many incidents into this unethical use for underage users of artificial intelligence.
Interesting, very, very interesting. I use a couple different AIs, some that are conservative, some that are private, some that are, and I've given them names and I've asked them to call me certain things, and that's how I identify with them, or, and it's very interesting to see how they just adapt to it. And yeah, the future is going to be very, very interesting. All I know is, for instance, I asked one of the AIs, what is it that you know about me? And she went on to tell me how many kids I have, where I live, what I'm working on. And I'm talking in depth. I'm talking, it actually knew you're creating this and you're doing this and this is exciting. And we'd even thought through things. And I went on to, what's crazy is I value the context that they have. So I don't want to delete all the data. I went on to say, please delete everything that you know about me. And so she went on, by the way, it's a she. So she went on and actually deleted everything. And then later on, I was asking if there were context. So I was trying to test to see if there was anything that was retained. And she really did. It was gone, at least as it pertained to me. But I see, just like everything else, like the internet was a very big promise around how humans can actually benefit from technology, how communities can be independent, how freedom of speech and voice and, all of these wonderful things can actually help. But the promises were lost. And if anything, it's become a tool to control humanity. And so one of the goals, and it's even more important and underscored. Sometimes I ask myself, like I see certain folks that watch news or the media or see what's going on, and anxiety is real. The loss of breath or just the pressure on the body or the mind, it's very real with the things that we're all going through. And sometimes I wonder why it's not harder for me as an individual, and even some of the team members, I see some of the team members around that the pressures, like we talked about before, it's really a spiritual thing, an emotional thing. And then we start seeing it as a physical thing. Today here in Utah, I would say we had our biggest outage, and there's people on this call that would probably know better than me, but I think we had our biggest cellular outage that we've ever had, that I've actually used cellular service. I mean, I've had the same number coming up on 30 years, and I've never seen the kind of outage that we had today. Any other thoughts on that or feedback on what happened today? And when I bring this up on emotional and physical, it's a natural thing that starts tying into the world that we actually live in. Those are things that, for instance, I had a dear friend that came in, he was supposed to land and then travel and needs all of his systems, and he lands, and next thing you know, none of his systems come up. It's like, how does he communicate? How does he navigate? How does he transact? And if his ability to pay for things are linked to his phone, or if his ability to log into banks are linked to text messages, or, it's all, we've literally put our worlds into these devices, and the apps that are in these devices and how they tie to someone else's systems. It's just the sense of urgency is so huge. That's why I talk about anxiety or pressures or just basic things. But now is the time to go. Now, especially like we have a window, we have like a 60-day window that President Trump was put in from November 5th to January 5th and starts on the 6th. So there's a small window where these types of things can be interwoven in with a window of opportunity. And so the pressure is high right now. It's very serious. It's very impactful. The opportunity costs, if focused in the wrong direction, can be very damaging. And I know that what the digital world has been building, and the Clear companies for decades, well over 15 years, is very important. And now is the time for it to actually get understood, implemented, and adopted. And all the components are there. You talk about these things, these futuristic things like AI and others. For us, and we were supposed to have this meeting today, which was actually a planning session. For those that are not aware, we do this thing called WIGS, Wildly Important Goals, where we focus on one goal across, every individual and company and organization and office. It's not as big as it was before, not even close, but we focus on one goal. We plan it in November for the following year. And then we try and stick to that. And then every week we have measurements that we measure to it. And we're basically in a phase where we can pick one of 3 paths that are pretty material paths, and we're trying to figure out what those are. In some ways, it would probably be a conversation that would be beneficial with this body, but it's very important for us to get organized and focused. Maybe we bring the WIG to you and have you shoot holes in it or question it or even go through the process with us. And this Digital World Town Hall meeting is a part of it, how we basically report out based upon the prior week's work, et cetera. So any other topics or subjects or things that people want to bring up or feel that are important? Calais, it's wonderful to have you here. Welcome, welcome. I think this is your first one. Thank you for joining us. Michael, I think the future's we're just getting started again, so to speak. So thank you. And Charles, did you have something you wanted to say earlier?
No, I was going to share a little bit about the idea of decentralized finance, which I got to see quite interestingly in Japan.
Please.
You had 2 companies. Japan is known for several famous things. One is their food, but also their transportation systems. They are never late. And if they are late, for people going to work, it's an amazing thing. But that being said, 28 train companies, because they got trains all going all over the place. 28 train companies uses one private pass card that you can put cash into to travel on the trains, and you refill it all the time. The same thing with the 7-Eleven stores. The convenience stores in Japan are also pretty darn famous for what they do. But people put cash on a private decentralized finance system that 7-Eleven and many others use to pay for stuff. And in doing so, they create a huge float, which is what the insurance company, that's what famously what Warren Buffett actually makes his money off of, is the insurance floats of his insurance companies. And they make a huge float off of that. It's decentralized finance of a sorts, not exactly like what you want to see, Michael, but it is decentralized finance of a sorts, and watching it work very efficiently across the entire country of Japan. They will take all those stores and all those products will take the Visas, the MasterCards, and so on and so forth, and their Japanese versions of them. But a lot of Japanese people just take cash in and put it and load it up on a card to be used in a 7-Eleven or any of the train stations, and any of their, what do you call those things, vending machines, which is another fascinating subject. But it was interesting to see how that works, and understanding behind that. 7-Eleven, one, and this Passmo, which is all the transportation companies, which they use it for all the buses, which I believe is probably a citywide thing, and all the private trains, they all use it, and that's a huge float that they're making money off of, guaranteed.
So
and they're not charging the individual for it like they do, say maybe. Well, anyway, I'll leave that alone.
You think that they're using cryptographic-based systems to do real-time transfers and then make money on the float and maybe a fee on top of it? Is that what you're saying?
I doubt that they're doing cryptographic, because that's a whole nother level, but they're doing the very basics of decentralized finance, in the sense 7-Eleven is its own private company, and it's its own private card. Passmo is a combination of 28 train companies saying, we're going to use this together. And even though they will take the visas and all that, people just load cash into it all the time. You have to watch that very interestingly.
Yeah, very interesting. It'd be good to compare that with some of the other things we've seen. And we really need to be working with Japan too. There's been 3 or 4 interactions where we've had starts, but it's never really stuck. I think we just haven't followed up enough. But they would be ones that could also join the Pacific Union, kind of like what we're trying to do with Mexico and others. But yeah, very interesting. I'll bet you it's not decentralized. I'll bet you it's either digital money or potentially cryptographic money. That would be awesome if they're doing that. But yeah, maybe there's a way to learn more about that.
I'll try and see if I can find out.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. It's good to hear your voice too. Any other thoughts or comments or areas you want to focus in on? been a long time since we've seen Jay. No, she was actually here last week. Well, it's good to see everyone. We hope to have a little bit more updates this next week. We've just been, a lot of the time has just been scrambling to try and get organized so that we can be, yeah. I'd like to know more about who that is, but so that we'd like to be able to roll these systems out for Identity for America. There's a new element of passports that we hope to also implement there. There's some conversations there. And then the goal is to tie that into other environments. I guess we could retire this vote now stuff since that's all done, which is awesome. Let's get rid of this stuff. And then, you know, financial stuff that we talked about just now with Charles. There is some advancements that's happening with wallets. One of the other things that we're going through is a resyncing process to see, like, if disaster recovery, how long it would take to recover from, you know, total all 100%. Let's say that every single node in the world went down. What would the recovery time? What would the process time look like? What would the sequence look like? All of those things, we're actually running some disaster recovery things there. It's another topic that I failed to mention. Yeah. So.
Michael,
Yeah.
do you think, I mean, this is just a thought I've had, and trying to prepare in case systems do go down, but do you think it would be worthwhile to possibly even try and prepare ourselves for if the whole system goes down, like for credit cards or bills and stuff that, you know, I've created a spreadsheet that tells me the addresses of where I'm supposed to send my bills to and just do everything the old fashioned way. So I'm not sure if you think the system's going to go completely down.
You know,
You know, what's, I think we need to actually plan for full physical or full digital collapse. And I know that may sound weird, but that's really the net. I think a lot of the things, I don't know if you've ever read any kind of agreements that talk about force majeure. And what it does is in times like COVID and other things, they basically, certain things get suspended, and payments are one of those. But one of the things that I would highly recommend are things like this. So I don't know if you can see what's in my hand, but
Yes,
straight
my
up,
husband and I have bunches of money set aside just in case.
that's exactly
Dollar
right.
bills and coins.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, so actually have a couple, we've got some interesting, wonder what I did with them.
But
But
since everything is like digital, I mean, it's like I've got everything set up through like the bank account to just automatically send. So if there's a billing date change or not date, billing address change, it's like I'm just like trying to get myself updated to make sure I'm sending the bills to the appropriate area.
you know, one of the things that I would recommend doing, there's a couple things within the digital world or ecosystems that you can use accounting systems to know where to pay. But the problem is, what if those accounting systems or the banks behind them change? Some of the stuff that I've personally done is you just put all of those things into a spreadsheet that's independent of the system, and the spreadsheets can be used offline. So assuming you still have some type of digital device. The other thing is, it's important to note, cash, even though it says right on it, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Notice that right there? All debts, public and private.
Correct. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses are saying no cash.
You know,
No
it's,
cash will be accepted.
that's exactly right. I remember just this last week where I went to go purchase gas with cash, which I can't remember the last time I did it. And the guy was like, sorry, this is a local community gas station. Like, this was actually Harmon's in Utah. Harmon's is like your local grocer. And they're like, we don't accept cash. I was like, well, there's gotta be a way. Come on, can we? And we basically just had to end up using a card for it. But to your point, what's going to happen when either power grids or kind of like what happened today. You know, we're talking a simple service that literally, I don't know how long it was out, but it was probably the biggest outage that I've personally seen within this particular carrier. And, you know, devastating is not the right word, but it's very inconvenient. And, you know, I found myself grabbing screenshots of a map and then sending it to the individual that I was meeting with, because we've all become so reliant on just plugging in the next waypoint and we're automatically there. So, you know, you can actually do certain things with offline apps. In my heart, one of the biggest reasons why I would say I've got so much, I wouldn't call it anxiety, but pressure, is a lot of the things that the world needs today. I feel like as an individual, I've made choices that have taken, you know, and so many people could argue, good for you, or, you know, but it's really been irresponsible of me, because I've been blessed with so much as an individual, with so many gifts from birth and from the life that I've been able to live and the people that I've been able to learn from, and just the environment. You know, we talked, Mr. Green and myself were talking about how Elon's trying to turn Austin and Texas into Silicon Hills. And I've been here in the heart of Silicon Slopes in Utah, building businesses for so long. And there's so much that I've taken for granted, but that I've made choices that I know if over the last couple of years I would have made different choices, well, just a couple simple different choices, the world would have decentralized email. The world would have decentralized file. For instance, we've got 2 recorders on this call today. It's that same recording capability that we wanted put into decentralized tech. And we had better tech 3 years ago, 2 years ago, with ClearOne than we have with any of the meeting technologies that we have today. Most of you know this because you used it. But simple choices really put us in a role where we've got to rebuild it. In my mind's eye, it's like, is that a blessing? Do we need to rebuild it? We know how to build it now. We know what to do. We know what to change. And, you know, one of them was I could point fingers at developers or this or that, but ultimately, I personally really feel a responsibility around why we don't have some of these systems. And in my mind's eye, is that because it was intended for America to actually build from scratch? Or is that
Michael, we would have decentralized homes as well.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we would.
No, you're exactly right. That's actually
Many of them.
You're right. So I don't know. Half of me is like, it's going to happen in a time scale that you can't force or control. So you need to just stop. You need to stop feeling bad. You need to stop worrying and just continue forward with everything that you can do every day, making the right decisions based upon the right intent and the right spirit, and do your best. So half of me is like, I don't want to just tell you that I'm beating up on myself, but what I am doing is I'm seeing such a need for such systems. And we were so close. The decentralized mail, I was using it. The apps, the contacts, calendars, sheets, presentations, I was using it. I was moving from Google into this system only to be told by a developer, oh, you can't do that. And I didn't question it. I didn't put someone else in the place. I didn't have the discipline to say, you know what, stop. We're going to take that task and put it somewhere else. And ultimately, I don't know. I should just stop talking, but these are the kinds of the things in my mind. It's like Susan's asking this simple question around how can we be prepared? Well, the time to prepare was years ago, and we had the opportunity. We saw it. And then I think to myself, well, maybe everything happens for a reason. And then.
You know, Michael, yeah, everything's perfect in the universe. And, you know, this whole fraudulent 2020 election, I think that it's a gift that it happened the way it happened, because I believe that people were not awake enough. And yeah, Trump probably would have done good things, but now I think he's going to be able to do great things. And I think that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, had you gone forward with some of your projects, maybe humanity wasn't quite ready to hear it yet. And I think that now people are ripe. I think that everything we've gone through in the last 4 years, and I mean, you know, I talk as if I'm American, but whatever happens to you happens to the world. So I am American. And I really think that we're in a different place now, and we're in a much more powerful place. People are more awake. I think people are ready. People are. So you know, like I said, I really believe everything's perfect in the universe.
Hey, Danielle, Trump stole the election from Kamala. It was ours. It was supposed to be her.
You're funny, Charles. Hi, Billy.
Hey, so how are you? Hey, brother Mike.
Great.
Kia ora.
Okay, kia ora, everybody. Aloha, Charles.
Aloha mai, aloha mai.
So
Aloha,
Susan,
Mike. Aloha, Mike Kako. Good to see you.
Susan,
Yeah,
I don't,
no,
go ahead.
just intriguing to listen to all the feedback from the US elections. I've been podcasting it since last Wednesday here in New Zealand, and you know, we have to wait and see what Trump will deliver. Obviously, he's a lot better an option on the face of it than Kamala and wokeism. Wokeism has done its damage. Climate change has done its damage. COVID has done its damage. But I think we need to also ensure that we keep a vigilant and diligent, open set of eyes on Mr. Trump. You know, none of us know him personally. Well, I don't. Mucka might. But, you know, and I'll only vouch for people I know. And we know that the Hegelian dialectic is well and truly at work. There are some concerning things around his stance towards employing a lot of Zionists in his administration team. Now, I am not pro-Palestinian, and I'm not pro-Israeli. I'm pro-human life, and yet, if we were to apply the same unbiased set of eyes as we assess what's happening in Gaza, one would have to come up and say, especially from a military point of view, as I've assessed it, that the IDF, Israel, has broken every Vienna and Geneva Convention law around military engagement, military conflict. Israel has violated every principle of that. The key concern that we have around that, of course, is what does it mean to the stance that the US will take in regards to Iran? We do not want a war with Iran. If we have a war with Iran, we will also have a war with Russia and China. So we need to avoid that. So it's going to be interesting to see who he appoints as Secretary of Defense, unless he's done that already and I've missed the announcement.
Yeah, he has. He did appoint the Secretary of Defense. It's Pete
He heads up, but
Yeah.
now everybody just know that they have to go through confirmation.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, that's exactly right, Susan. So the nominations will be done, but the confirmations, again, are a separate issue that needs to go through the House. So we need to watch that. The other thing that I'm interested in will be to see the stance towards the Indigenous First Nations people, both of mainland Turtle Island, United States, and also, of course, in Hawaii. I'm going to be interested to see what his purview will be towards our First Nations families, and both in Hawaii and in the United States itself. But intriguing, we've got to wait and see. Yes, I got to say, I'm not a spiteful person at all, but I did take a lot of glory out of seeing the look on those reporters on The View and all the CNN and all of the woke people realizing that their reign of terror has come to an end. But like I say, the government may change, the administration may change, but let's see if things will change. I like some of the noises Trump is making towards the UN. He's appointed a tough ambassador for the United States in the United Nations machinery. WHO, it'll be interesting to see how he responds to the Global Pact. Republican senators and congressmen have both protested against the United Nations Global Pact, which was signed in late September. So we need to see how he plays up, but he's got to live up to the promises he made to the Islamic League in Michigan, because they came out, the anomalies in the electoral jurisdictions was, one, that the Amish voted, and two, that the Islamic League in Michigan came out to support Donald Trump based on his commitment to peace and security in the Middle East and the rights of all. And I loved what the leader of the Arab League said. He said, we want the same things that President Trump wants, and that's peace for Israeli people, Palestinians, for all people, and he's the man to deliver that. So let's see. Fingers crossed.
Amen to that. Amen to
Fingers
that.
crossed.
There has been some very serious conversations with multiple folks from Israel. They have, these are folks that we have worked with over the years that are coming around and saying, we'd like systems built for Israel, similar to what was built for Mexico and the Hawaiian Kingdom and others. And we're currently going through the tactical steps on seeing what kind of time frame and how that could become very real. You talk about the UN. I think there's a lot to be understood and aware of with that topic. There's a lot that's already transpired and things that are already in the works, regardless of, elections and roles. I find it very interesting on some of the things that we all were told we were guilty of and around conspiracy theories with vaccinations and control, and just some of the different, why would you shut down businesses? Why would you go home? Why would you social distance? Why would you do these basic things? We're in a normal, natural questioning mode. And now it's coming out that they're starting to see some accountability behind it. Cases are being won. Massive settlements are starting to be realized. And what's that going to do to the rest of the ecosystem? So, when I say ecosystems, I'm talking about the financial side of the world. So, Charles, did you have something you want to say there, bud? Always welcome.
Yeah, to Billy's point, according to Liz Wheeler and a journalist, the New York City mayor is ending vouchers for illegals. Mexico has stopped migrants at the U.S. border. Qatar kicks out Hamas leaders. Putin says he's ready to end the Ukraine war. Hamas calls for an end to war. So the migrant caravan at the border dissolves away. So, there's a lot of things that's going on, even though the guy is not even the president yet. Dude is something else. There's a difference between a politician and a leader. Like, man. And again, whether you like him or not is not even relevant. It's like stuff is happening quickly. When the EU says that they're going to start buying gas from the US instead of Russia, that's interesting.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. Anyway, to Billy's point, though.
Other topics or thoughts? These are all amazing and very important observations. Anything from our friends down in Mexico? Mr. Green, all good. Anything from our friends in Ethiopia? Michael, anything you want to bring up? He's been mute.
Yeah. So first of all, Michael, thank you so much for continuously holding these meetings and inviting us. A lot of things are happening. I think the team has mentioned that there is a whole macro changes that are coming to fruition, which we're very, very happy. At the end of the day, the destination is the decentralization. And to achieve that, we have to break old processes and old way of thinking and really bringing in new changes. I think with the new leadership coming into the United States, in my humble opinion, again, I want to stay away from politics as much as possible. But I think the world has been entangled into this, something that was not sustainable. So hopefully this will make it sustainable. This will reset some of the conflicts we have, some of the trade practices that are not helping mankind in a sense. Hopefully things will change, and I'm very, very positive. In terms of the project at Ethiopia, it's taking the process is a little bit longer. We're dealing with the government entities and the state-owned enterprises that have their own stake into the change. Some of them are positive, but to affect change, they're not collaborating as fast as we would like them to be. But I give Michael enormous credit to this support. We're making progress. We're hoping soon we will announce maybe a launch of a pilot project. Maybe not the broader project the way we wanted it, but some kind of a pilot project to crawl, walk, run into this whole long-term process. But I'm very, very excited, very, very happy to be here with everyone. Finally, one disclosure, I have to say this, I cannot sleep otherwise. I'm in Utah today, where Michael is guiding me into a lot of stuff, and I have my ClearOS phone working on it, and my mobile phone was T-Mobile. So I landed at the airport in Salt Lake City, rain and the snow started, and I was very happy to see the snow, the first one. I took a picture and I texted it to my wife. I told her, yeah, I'm in the snow. And then halfway on the highway, I have my map, and unfortunately the car I rented doesn't have a satellite system or map system. So I was using my phone's map to guide me to the hotel and eventually to Mike's office. In the middle, the phone stopped. And I said, what's happening? And then Michael is trying to reach me. I went to the hotel. It took me about half an hour instead of the 15 minutes drive to find it. And inside the hotel, they told me that the entire T-Mobile network is down and I could use the Wi-Fi to reach to Michael. So we got connected at the hotel using Wi-Fi. But to go back to what earlier, there is a chance of the digital system collapsing at some point for whatever reason. So I think as we move into the decentralization, we have to have backup plans in mind. If one connection doesn't work on a phone, which is a cellular GSM network, if it fails, is there a way to use a satellite network, for example, as a backup? That has to be, I think, part of this design. And I think Becca, you and I talked about digital transformation without secure connectivity and resilient connectivity it will have a more disaster than we ever imagined it. And I'm an example of it that today here in Utah, where the network goes down and I cannot even find where to go because I forgot Michael's office, and without a map, I cannot go to Michael's office. I have to go to the hotel and use Wi-Fi, and he screenshot the map, and then I use that screenshot of the old paper way to look at it and just go through the drive to the office. So we kept it for the finale to tell you guys, but this is very crucial. And I think as we plan, let's plan the connectivity aspect. And Becca, you are right on the money for a long time. Connectivity, backup. And let's get X-Phone embedded everywhere.
There are some exciting, thank you, Michael, and thank you for being here. We're hopeful to be able to provide some guidance on future advancements there. I'm convinced that Ethiopia is going to be a very, very core part of really, there's two competing powers in the world. And if you've read The Art of War, you understand what I'm talking about. But how, the internet and knowledge can equalize everything. The way that things are understood. It doesn't say that cultures and work ethics and productivity, it doesn't matter anymore. but there's no reason why we're not equal. And I really believe that technology can do that. And I know that what Mike is doing, Michael Domino with Ethiopia, is going to be a pivotal part for developing countries to actually leapfrog over developed countries and provide. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Mike taught me today around in the 1950s, how Boeing actually set up, and I don't know why, but they actually did training with the planes in factories there in Ethiopia. Maybe it was because the factories are put there, but I believe that that can create a catalyst that can actually start a unique future and unique opportunity for different countries, especially a country like Ethiopia. So,
Just to add a little bit, the reason the emperor at that time, the 1950s, invited Boeing is Ethiopia is heavily populated, places are mountainous, and it's not easy to build roads. So people are isolated, and the easiest thing to do is have an airport at each mountain region to communicate. And to do that, they have to build the airline system there. And Boeing was a partner. Initially, Ethiopians were sent to the US to get trained as mechanics as well as pilots, but eventually they set up a training framework in Ethiopia in the late 60s and early 70s. And now Ethiopian Airlines is the top in Africa, but also a lot of African countries train their mechanics and pilots in Addis Ababa. It's much easier due to visa and cost issues. So it became a hub for transportation because of the nature didn't collaborate, give them flat land to build roads. It was a lot of mountains, so they have to use the air. The same thing today, we're hoping to use the digital technology capabilities. As long as we fix the people and process issue, digital technology can enable the countries like Ethiopia and others really achieve telemedicine, teleeducation, a lot of these societal needs using communication systems. And I think that's the excitement about my involvement in this, but also the future would enable that. And thanks to you, Michael, and the extended team in believing in this and making progress. It's not easy, but I think we are on the front of some exciting time now, thanks to this change in the election, the way things are heading. Hopefully, peace. And I heard you earlier, I forgot who said it, but peace is very important. I'm hoping the Middle East and Ukraine go back into something useful, something good for the people, rather than wasting a lot of money, killing each other and destroying what has been built. So cross fingers, I think we're on the right track. And so let me give back to you, Michael. I think I said a lot more than I thought I would say today.
It's good to hear of your wisdom and voice. And, we never know when, I got a message this morning that there's a favorite restaurant that I always go to, and one of the waitresses there, was sent out that she had passed away. Not old at all, two young boys. And, I found myself in life always trying to find the perspective of who knows if it's the last time that we're going to talk.
Yeah.
Last time, So the relationships that we have, and I don't know about each of you, but I feel a camaraderie and a connection, even though it's, most of us have never met, but we're all in different parts of the world, but we can see a world that can actually bring that peace that you talk about, Mike. And so we hope to provide a better future. Not that today's bad, because it's really not. I mean, we're blessed in so many ways, but at least so that future generations can't be enslaved, because slavery is a really big thing. It's a really real thing that we forget about, but it's very, very real. And, I think in many ways and I was even telling some of my kids this, it wasn't even my kids. It was, I feel like I may have failed them in a way, because when I grew up, there were certain things that you had to be concerned with. And now those things are pale in comparison to some of the things that they're dealing with. And so it's like, I tried to block for this, but it didn't matter in time. But, I think in some cases, I think we're going to see some fortuitiveness that actually the fruit of our work will make a difference by the time we take our last breath. And so hopefully that becomes very real. One of the other, so there's two things that I'll wrap up with, and then maybe Billy, you could close us with a prayer if you would. We're going to be building some new phones, and we've been testing a lot of different elements, like with new types of cameras and new technologies. The net advancement that I think has really been made is to take Clear Life and make it work on Apples and Androids that are not Clear. And that's really important, so everyone in the world can get it, and make it so that it's even simpler, right? So it's really easy, it's understood, but they may not have all the features and functions, but it's been neat to see that. So Clear Life and Clear Phones, at least without setting up some of our WIGs, those are areas that we're currently digging into. What would it really take? What are the resources? What are the cycles? What's the viability? How can we learn from things in the past to actually create a better future? And so we hope to report out on that. It's probably going to take another 3 weeks there. But the second thing is, we're going to be heading down to Mar-a-Lago in Florida, which is where Trump lives, and spending time with key individuals. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I don't know if anyone's going to care. I can tell you the last time that I met with President Trump, he did care, and he was impressed that we had built decentralized phones, and he tasked some of his team members to look into it. But I can honestly say they didn't care. His new chief of staff, I believe she cares. There's been 2 messages that have sent out to her. She hasn't responded to either of them. But prayer is important, and us actually doing something and acting is important. We can't just talk about it. This isn't just a news channel where we just recite the past. This is an interactive life that we get to live, and action is a part of it. This last week, one of the things that happened, I was nominated. Let's see if I can find I don't even know. Here. Let's see here. I'm going to send you a link. If each of you could go through and provide a nomination, if you so choose, that would be valuable. This is directly to actually get involved with Kennedy's team and or some of the roles. So if you could click on that link, go through a nomination. There's a quick form that you fill out to be able to get an account to get in, but that would be beneficial. There's not a lot of votes in the system, and some of the votes, like Jack Dorsey, some of the ones that have some of the top, I can honestly tell you that they're not the ones that we want guiding and leading. So Jack Dorsey's the one that started Twitter, centralized leftist ecosystem. He also went on to start Cash App. If you haven't used Cash App, it will be one of the centralized financial systems that actually controls humanity, at least in America. And we're trying to build the absolute opposite, 100% opposite of what that is. So your vote there would go a long way, if you feel so inclined. So Billy, before that, is there anybody else that wants to bring anything up or go through anything? Or if not, we'll see you in about a week. So thank you for joining and your time. And Billy, would you wrap us up?
Be my honor to do that. Kia ora tātou e hoa mā. Thank you, Father, for today and life and breath. Lord, I pray for everyone here that's attended our meeting today, that they may be in your mighty care. We pray for traveling mercies for the 2 Mikes as they go to Florida, to Mar-a-Lago. And we just ask for your wisdom, your guidance, and to open up opportunities for us to do the good work that you would direct us to do. Father, thank you for your care and your love. Please help us to bring peace to our world. Help us to share your truth with others and to share the love. Thank you, Father. We ask these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Much love, everybody. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Stephen. Good night, Danielle.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.